Hello, and welcome back to Elden Ring. This is part 13 of our Intelligence Magic run through the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Last time we took out Bale in the Jagged Peak Summit, along with going through Reclusus's River, the Darklight Catacombs, and the eastern part of the Abyssal Woods. For items, we got ourselves the Heart of Bale, Egon's Great Bow, Set and Bell Bearing. We got the Priestess Heart and the Flowerstone Gavel. We got the Giant Golden Arc Incantation, the Dryleaf Seal, Rakshasa's Great Katana and Armor Set, the Dryleaf Armor Set, except for the hat which you get elsewhere. We got the Mold Monger's Bell Bearing for Fly Mold. We got the Viridian Amber Medallion +3, one of the best looking knight armor sets in the game in my opinion, with the Death Knight set. We got the Great Ghost Glowwort, the Barb Staff Spear, the Matting Hand, a Frenzy Flame perfume bottle, and some upgrade materials. And here we are starting at the Abyssal Woods set of grace. And I would suggest throwing on as much focus as you can, because we've got something ahead of us. Hide yourself. Make not a sound. Quietly await your chance. Combat is not an option. Crouch in the undergrowth. So you're supposed to go from one patch of grass to the next, slowly inching your way forward, piece by piece. Only moving out of cover when that thing, which doesn't even have a health bar as you can see, is not looking at you. Though you should be careful, as there are these little plants, these things as you can see, that if you get close, they make a sound and they attract the attention of those things. And this is like a horror game segment where you can't just kill the thing, and if it sees you, you can't even run from it, because it's faster than you, it has attacks that stop you in your tracks, and it builds up frenzy. So these are supposed to be very, very scary enemies. But I found a way to deal with them and to weirdly not make them scary, like, at all. And I believe I found this in my very first run. So what you want to do is you want to run away. You want to get to the point where you would be out of their line of sight. Then you quit the game. And that de-aggroes all enemies. Like, quitting the game de-aggroes all enemies and puts them back in their default position. And there you go. Now, as you can see, it does quite a bit of build-up to your frenzy meter, which is why I say you want to have your frenzy meter as like as wide as possible. So the modeled necklace, the clarifying horn charm, the braided cord set. Although, if you don't have the braided cord set, the dry leaf set, which you get in Recluse's River, which you need to go through to get to here, that is a good alternative. It doesn't give you as much breathing room, but it still gets you a bit. And it's not too long before you get back to these enemies. Now, you can go off to the left from here, meaning kind of this northern section, I'd say probably around here on the map. And you can get a cookbook, and you can go up here to the left, going up there to get another cookbook. But I'm not too worried about the cookbooks, because I don't really do crafting, and this isn't a character I'm too concerned about keeping around for a long time. So, we're just gonna move on. Off here, down to this, like, bottom left section of the map, where you can kind of see the top of it through the fog. There's a building. And this I have a friend who plays these games with no HUD. I'm just completely off. And this game is gorgeous with no HUD. I believe I did it a bit in the previous recorded run at this section as well. And it looked so good. It legitimately blew me away with just how gorgeous this game is when you don't have the video gamey things on it. Like the health bar, the FP bar, the stamina bar, the things in the bottom left showing all your equipment. Like, without that, the game looks so good.
Now, come no closer. No closer, I say. The madness wells.
Anyways, now this guy. I welcome you, O uninvited guest. But I must warn, as you venture on, heed the words of our great master Midra. Approach not the madness, lest ye succumb. So, they're talking silly talk, and there's absolutely nothing for you to worry about. However, we can just move on. And you can actually sneak around them if you want to. But why would you? There's Absolutely no need. Now this. I touched him, but only once. When he thrust his staff in my face, I brushed it aside. It was then that I touched him. The aging untouchable. So, this torn diary page, I'm assuming this is a hint on how to deal with those enemies outside. The ones that we had to quit the game for. I'm assuming this is to kind of hint to you that, hey, like, push their weapon aside. Just brush it aside. You know, parry them. Because I have heard that parrying them lets you damage them. Oh, I am garbage at parrying. And I'm not a big fan of it anyways. A lot of respect for people who can do it because it is difficult. But I can't do it, and doesn't really fit my playstyle anyways. Hello. Alright. You, I can respect. You trying to attack me when I'm already fighting another enemy. That's cowardice, and I cannot respect that. Also, there's an enemy behind us. And also, to my knowledge, the aging untouchables, the rewards that you get for killing them aren't that good. So, don't really care that much. Now, if they're one-time only enemies, then maybe that'd be worth it. For, like, helping people in co-op. But besides that, eh. I beg you, stop. Haven't I taken enough? Are we not brethren, common in our line? And yet, you offer only cruelty. I ask, what crime did great Midra commit? Well, he did commit the crime of having a very short area. That multiple of those should have hit me. But, so, I consider the Abyssal Woods and Midras Manse to be two separate areas. Because they feel very distinct from one another. Despite one leading into the other seamlessly with no boss. But still, I consider them to be two separate areas. And uh-oh. Well, doing that just because we can. Because why not? What are the rats gonna do? Anyways, throughout the DLC, I consider Midras Manse to be one of my top areas. Like, this is such a good area. The atmosphere, the visuals, the aesthetic. The enemies aren't anything super special. I do like the two horned warriors. The two horned warriors are good. And then Midra himself is an incredible boss. But outside of that, like, these areas, or these enemies, it's mostly just these enemies and the, like, basic shadow guys that you see all throughout the very first area of the DLC, the Gravesite Plains. So, the enemies are nothing special at all. But everything else about this area is just top notch. Now, the rewards that you get for this area, not that great either, actually. I would say the only thing of note that I care about is Nanaya's torch. And that's just because it looks very unique and very cool. It's like a spine that's bent. And then the Frenzy Flame Head. Very cool. I like it a lot. That was so mean of me. It completely bullied the poor guy. But anyways, even though the rewards aren't high, even though the rewards aren't that good, I really don't care. Like, just the area, the visuals and aesthetic, the layout, it's all so incredible that I really don't care about how little reward you get from this area. I mentioned in the last part that, oh boy, where is it? Here, the Village of Flies. I mentioned the last time that without the revered Spirit Ash, no one would ever go to the Village of Flies after the first run because there's just no point in going there. It is not the same with Midras Manse at all. Even if this area had no items, not a single item to pick up whatsoever, I would still go here every single time just because going through the area, looking around, and moving through the area is just so good. It's so satisfying. I love everything about this area. Like, unironically, my biggest complaint with this area is just that it's small. I wish that it took up more, because you head up and then you start higher up and then you head down, And then there's all this area that's just empty. And I'm not saying that Midras Manse should take up this entire area, but I wish that it was just a bit bigger, extended a bit more outwards. And it's not like they would have to, like, move much, because there's, like, nothing back here. So they could have added on pretty easily. It's just kind of a shame that they didn't.
The depths of your foolishness!
Let's go. Because this is one of my favorite areas. This is one of my favorite bosses. I wouldn't put them in like a top 10 or anything. But they're pretty good.
I have endured more than enough. I ask you forgive me, dearest Nanaya.
It might sound weird, but I wish that you could get the, like, robe thing hanging off of them. Understandable. Have a great day. Because just think about that as a chest piece. Like, just that robe. I probably should have been hit by one or two of those. There it is. That's when we get hit. Okay. As I said, not in this part, but in the recent parts. I haven't played this game in a while. I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne, which are very different in terms of pacing. Whew. Oh, okay. But yeah, absolutely love this boss. If anything, I would say that they're ever so slightly too easy. But I think that that's okay because they have frenzy buildup. And so the fear of that can make you mess up. But yeah, personal opinion, I feel like this shouldn't have been Midra. I feel like this should have been one of those two boss. Kind of something like Stormvale Castle, where it's a single legacy dungeon with two different bosses. Or like Academy of Raya would probably be a better fit. Where you can head in and then like halfway through there's a boss and then at the very end there's a second boss. Because I feel like they could have made this room a bit smaller. Maybe not like from this wall to this wall, but from the doorway to here. I feel like they could have shortened this up a bit. Made it to where the stairs, instead of starting here, made it so that way the stairs start like here, maybe? And then have a smaller, less impactful boss fight in a room here, and then have it continue, like have this legacy dungeon continue past this, and then have Midra at the very, very end. Because, like I said, this is one of my favorite legacy dungeons in terms of aesthetic, but it's just so short. It's just so short. And I wish there was more to it because it is an incredible area. Like, out of the legacy dungeons, I would say that there's Stone Coffin Fisher. I would count that as a legacy dungeon. There is Bellerot. There's Enir Ilim. And there's Shadowkeep. And Castellensis. And I would say, out of all those, Midras Manse is by far my favorite aesthetically. With Sandy Bellerot and Enir Ilim kinda a little bit close, but definitely Midras Manse being the top one. But I can't say that Midras Manse is the best overall legacy dungeon, despite it being by far my favorite aesthetically. Just because it's so short, and the enemies and the rewards just aren't that good. Because Castellensis also has a really good boss. Shadowkeep also has a really, really good boss. And the Flower, which is also a decent boss. And Gaius, which is also an alright boss. He's not bad. He's just not my flavor. And he's got a few, like the one charge attack, I feel like hits just a little bit too much. That could definitely be a skill issue on my part, but it feels way harder to dodge than anything else. but Bellerot also has really, really good aesthetics. And it has a lot more area. And it has good rewards. And Enir Ilim. Oh, this is all we have left. We're 30 minutes in, so unless I'm missing an area, which is possible, but part of me thinks it's just Enir Ilim left. And so I think what we can do is, because we have like 25 minutes left, we can go through part of Enir Ilim. You tried. But I remember some things, good sirs. But I feel like we can go through part of Enir Ilim. Not all the way, just part of it. And then we can do the rest of Enir Ilim and Radahn as a final part. Because like I don't see myself beating or going through all of Enir Ilim and beating Radahn in 28 minutes. That's just not something I see. Especially with how long it's been. Since I've played through Elden Ring. I say that as if it's been years, but like, it's only been 3.5 months. But 3.5 months of not playing a game and also actively playing other games that have different tempos, it can kind of mess with your timing. The Spira or Spira, however you pronounce it, incantation. But yeah, I've been playing other games with different tempos. And I'm not really used to int builds. Or magic builds of any kind, really. I'm actually really worried for Radahn. Yep. Because something about magic builds is you only have so many casts. And so you need to take away from your heal flask in order to get blue flask, to get FP back. But that means less healing. And magic builds tend to have very light armor sets, which means lower defense. Meaning you're going to be taking more damage per hit and having less healing. Which makes very difficult bosses a lot more scary. Now, something I've been saying is that if something is difficult for melee, it tends to be easy for magic. Something tells me that's not going to be true for Radon. Something tells me Radon is going to be hard for melee, but even harder for magic builds. Also, when they yell, it rains and gets overcast. And I wish that stayed for a little bit more, because I love the rain. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Time for the scary part. The bullet hell gauntlet. That should have probably hit me, but I'm not complaining. Because when the ground is exploding beneath your feet... Sir, please. I'm a pacifist. I have not killed a single thing in my life. Certainly not in this run. I have gained 0 runes because I have killed nothing. And you're gonna back me on that. You're gonna back me on that claim, alright? When I say we haven't killed anything, you're gonna back me in the court of Enir Ilim law, right? You're gonna get on the stand, and you're gonna tell whoever's in charge of making them law decisions, probably Mikola. You're gonna tell Mikola that I didn't kill anyone. And in exchange, I'm gonna get you a Kit Kat. Full-sized, not one of the ones people give it out at Halloween. Not one of the full-sized bars. Because you help me and I help you. That's how it works. We are gonna have each other's backs. And we're gonna make sure that the other doesn't die until we hit Primus Consort Radon. Then it's every man for himself. That up. I don't know where that came from, by the way. Also, the dagger that they use is the same that the Inquisitors use. The Inquisitors being the magic enemies that we've been dealing with. The ones that are in Midras Manse and here. And there's a scorpion. And they're gonna die. And we're gonna take that, we're gonna move on. That brings you back up. Which you can honestly just ignore. Because you can just teleport. So there's no reason to walk back manually. Although, Elden Ring no teleporting would be awesome. If the game is just pulled to Dark Souls 1 when, yeah, no, you're not teleporting. You want to get somewhere, you have feet. You can walk there. Well, obviously it would be bad for like player convenience and quality of life, but it would be so worth it. Now, you could say, well, just put that restriction on yourself. But that's not how it works. If I have access to a tool, I'm going to use it. Because I will. Because why would you make things more difficult on yourself? Challenge runs aren't real. Also, I keep calling that Europa. And obviously it's not called Europa. And I don't know why. And also, holy damage. This one, it makes sense, but there are just so many weapons with holy damage in this DLC. Now we can sit down. We can level up. I think we can stop it at 300 FP. I don't think there's a need for more than that. We're just... Also... The armor set these guys have? Very cool. You can't get them, though. At least to my knowledge. Which I wish you could, because... It's such a cool armor set. I feel like more than one of those should have hit. Okay. You can just move back here and avoid getting hit by all those. It's pretty nice. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Stars of Ruin. You should try it. It is a very, very good sorcery. I've gotten a few people on it. I've convinced a few people of the Stars of Ruin propaganda. And yet, I do that for everything that I like. If there is a weapon, a spell, an armor set, anything that I like... Horned Warrior Ashes, by the way. But I'll try to convince people to use it, and I will absolutely call it propaganda. But it's true. Like, I might be trying to feed a narrative here about how the blue things are cool. But the blue things being cool, it's true. I'm not lying to you, I promise. Speaking of, Horned Warrior Ashes, like, I feel like people are sleeping on that one. Because I don't hear anyone talking about it. But it's one of the best Spirit Ashes in the game. Oh. Like, I would go as far as to say it is on par with, if not potentially better than, Mimic Tier. Which is a very bold claim, considering Mimic Tier is known for being, like, the best Spirit Ash. but I'm telling you, it's actually nuts. Now, I can see why people wouldn't know about how crazy good it is, considering you get it at the very end of the game. But if you go into New Game Plus, please give it a try. Like, I promise it will not disappoint. Oh. Just make sure to fully upgrade it. Make sure that you have the 112 FP requirement. Ancient Summerstone. And then use it for every boss. Because that's something I did. I went into New Game Plus, and I didn't go up against every single boss, but I went up against most of the bosses. I'd say probably around like 90 or so bosses, including all the major ones. And Horned Warrior Ashes, I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. Soloed most of them. And I'm talking like getting into Landell, and it was still just soloing bosses like Morgott. And I don't know where it is on the map. I think here. But the duo tree sentinels. And I mean, I would just spawn it. And then I had a golden vow. And I would pop that and I'd just sit back. And that's all I did. Now, I'm not going to use it here. Because I already have a Spirit Ash. Ow. Ow. But yeah, pretty good enemy. And therefore pretty good Spirit Ash. Now, it doesn't have that exact move, but still. It is an incredibly good Spirit Ash. And two things that set it apart from Mimic Tier are that one... performance from the game. But anyways, two things that set it apart from Mimic Tier are that one, it costs FP instead of health. Which means you're not losing a chunk of health at the beginning of a boss fight. And two, because it's a big, tall, like 9-foot enemy, instead of you, the player character, it has a ton of poise. Which is really good. So something that would stun you, the player, probably not going to stun them, and they can just swing through it. I'm just gonna ignore him because we're running low on time. You can die. Good. But yeah, so no you losing health, and they have more poise. And those are two things that make them very good. They also have a lot of health, a lot of damage. They have a big weapon that does a lot of poise damage to the enemies. That up. Horned Warrior is a great sword. Very, very good weapon. I used it once or twice. It has faith scaling and a faith requirement, but it doesn't do any holy damage, which I very much appreciate. It's a curved greatsword, which is something I don't use a lot, so unique on that front. And I just now realized we are missing some upgrade materials. Uh-oh. But yeah, because it scales off strength, dex, and faith, it's good for going into New Game Plus, which is something you're going to want for weapons you get at the very end of the game. And because it's a curved greatsword, it hits hard and has good range. The unique skill is decent. Nothing too crazy, but it's decent. And because it's pure physical damage, you don't have to worry about split damage of any kind. Here, we got all the Skidoo tree fragments we could need. But yeah, we're 2 revered spirit ashes short. And as I've said before, I took a 3.5-month break in the middle of this run, so I don't know where those are. So that's an uh-oh. But I'll probably look for those between now and the next part, so you don't have to see me looking for them. But anyways, I think we can end it here. We went through the left half of the Abyssal Woods and Midras Manse, along with going through Enir Ilim up to the cleansing chamber anteroom. However you pronounce that. So there's the Let a fight, some dialogue, and Radon, and then that's it. But I'm going to save that for next time because we have 6 minutes and I don't want this to go significantly over an hour. For items, we have gotten ourselves... This is what I mean, or what I meant by there's like no loot in Midras Manse. So, anyways, for items, we've gotten Anaya's Torch, Remembrance of the Lord of Frenzied Flame, the Spira or Spira incantation, the Euporia Twin Blade, the Horned Warrior Ashes, the Gravebird Helm, an Ancient Somber Stone, and the Horned Warrior's Greatsword. And with that being said, yeah.